Uzumaki. Fearfully focused on spirals and the many horrors that derive from them, the show so far is an incredible example of how to bring such a beloved work to life on the small screen. Of course, the horrors have only begun for the town of Kuruzocho. The cursed Uzumaki anime's first episode is already setting the stage for the manga's scariest moments. Many of the images seen in the episode establish the surreal nature of the series, and it's certain to make fans smile as much as it terrifies them. Unfortunately for the citizens of Kuruzocho, there is a literal smoke signal for the evil of the spiral. The first episode of the anime adaptation of Uzumaki retells the earliest bits of the manga by Junji Ito. Things initially seem normal in the small town of Kuruzocho, but they quickly take a turn for the worst. Due to a mysterious symbol, the events of Uzumaki see the small town spiral out of control. The protagonists are Kiri and her boyfriend Shuichi, the latter of whom begins to become more fearful of their small town. He notices the ubiquity of a strange spiral design that he notices everywhere, which his father takes to an even greater extreme. Shuichi's father, Mr. Saito, becomes obsessed with the spiral, to the point where he even tries to recreate it with bath water as he bathes in it to calm his increasing neuroticism. All the while, there's also a strange local girl named Azumi who soon puts Shuichi even more on edge, namely due to her effect on other boys in the town. She commands an almost hypnotic seduction over these young men, who are all suddenly head over heels for her. Shuichi is the only one immune to this effect, however, and he warns Kiri about her. Of course, this is mainly due to his noticing that the crescent scar on her forehead, usually covered by her bangs, has developed into a version of the town's now infamous spiral. Another manifestation of this design is a classmate of his and Kiri's. Katayama, known for his slow nature, is casually teased by others at school. This results in them stripping him after gym class to further humiliate him, only to react in horror as they see the spiral design on his back. In the middle of Uzumaki Episode 1, Shuichi's father mysteriously dies. Though most of the town believes this to be after an accident where he fell down the stairs, the reality is far more disturbing. He had become increasingly driven by the spiral, even scaring Kiri after he showcased to her how he could loop his own tongue into the familiar design. Taking this newfound obsession to an even greater level, he contorted his own body to make himself into a human spiral inside a bin. This grievous act broke every bone in his body, with his wife and son soon discovering his twisted corpse. At his funeral, his cremated body seemingly billows into a giant cloud, which has Mr. Sato's face, that then becomes a spiraling tornado. This massive cloud then falls into Dragonfly Lake, falling back into the town as the citizens watch on. Mr. Sato's wife is driven insane by this, with Shuichi noting that she has gone so far as to cut off her own fingertips in order to not see the spiral again. After seeing Azumi again, Kiri notes that her scar is now a growing spiral in the middle of the girl's head, and she runs away in horror from the sight. The episode comes to a close as Azumi is approached by a young man who's become obsessed with her. Ironically, she only has eyes for Shuichi, namely due to how he's been able to rebuff her advances. Now sporting a hat, she angers her other potential suitor when she talks about how she no longer has any use for him. He furiously rips off her hat, revealing that the spiral-shaped scar has evolved into a full-blown spiral that's now consuming her head. Sucking her eye into the growing spiral, the vortex then engulfs the young man and sucks him into her body before the growing suction envelopes Azumi and makes her body/spiral destroy itself. Afterward, a narration by Kiri notes that this is far from the end of the town's issues with the spiral. As she says this, a spiral-shaped snail shell is seen on the outside of a building, hinting at things to come. While this is the end of Azumi, the death of the spiral-headed girl is only the beginning of the dread in the Uzumaki anime. The original Uzumaki manga by horror mangaka Junji Ito contained 19 official chapters, with these multiple chapters later being contained into 3 volumes. This was the case in the original print of the series manga, though the modern release has the entire series in 1 volume. The first 3 volumes are adapted into the anime adaptation's first episode, with bits of Chapter 8, The Snail, also established. Given that there will only be 4 episodes of the Uzumaki anime, it remains to be seen which chapters will also be adapted in their entirety. More than likely, the story of the final episode will be handled in the same way as what was seen in the manga. One of the manga's most infamous chapters was already hinted at, both in the middle of the episode and the ending.